Hey guys, welcome to our new video on lookup references and arrays function. Today we get into one of the very important and probably widely used function when I'm trying to create dashboards in Excel. So that is indirect function. Yeah. So what indirect function does, it will fetch the actual value indirectly. Very simple. So it retrieves the cell reference that points to the actual value by passing the cell reference itself. So if I say A4, so the function will retrieve A4, which is the second ID through this indirect function. So that's how it works. Very simple. Yeah. So what you need to remember is it retrieves the cell reference that points to the actual value by passing the cell reference itself. Yeah, a very simple formula or function. So it will be indirect, open brackets. Then you need to provide the cell reference. Yeah, and there is a logical value which is optional, which is called A1. Okay, and you close the brackets. So indirect function, the first argument cell reference, it will contains either any cell reference or a cell range. So R1, C1 or a row and column reference. Yeah. And the logical value A1 could be true or false. If you omit, by default, it will be considered as true, which is considered as a style of A1. That is the one which I showed you. Yeah. And if it is false, if you specify false, then it will consider it to be R1C1. Now, there are few points to remember while using indirect function. If you provide an invalid reference in the indirect function, it will give you a reference error. So let me first quickly show you how indirect function works. It's a straightforward way. So I need to specify suppose I want to get the cells of Jan for ID 5, which is B8. So B8, yeah, and it will give me, have I specified anything incorrect? Let me check. I haven't moved anything. Why is it giving me a reference error? Is it outside the row limit? That's what I'm trying to understand. No, it is not outside the row limit. Let me take this formula and bring it to 8 row. Still it okay. Let me bring it 8 row. No, it is still giving me the incorrect reference number. Ideally, what happens is if the reference text to the cell range is outside the row limit, then in this case, the indirect function will retrieve the reference error. Now we are not outside the row limit, but it's still giving me an error. So if I say, let me put here as D2, and I'll say is equal to indirect this cell reference. Oh, it gives me this. Okay. So I need to specify the cell reference in which the cell name is available. So you can see D2, we do not have anything in D2. So let's see in D2 what is there. D2 is 0 or nothing. There is nothing in D2. So let's see what we wanted previously was B8, this value. Yeah. So let's enter B8 here and let's find out whether we are able to get the required output here. Okay. So the point where you are referring to the cell should have the cell reference, which for which you want to find out the value. So this is a basic indirect function where you are trying to retrieve a particular value based on a certain thing. Yeah. So we can do it this way as well. So what I can do is I can give a name to this entire thing. So I can give a name to this entire thing and I'll say quantity. So just see what I'm doing. You can refer my named ranges video where you can see how you can create name ranges. So this is the entire range wherein I have given the name as quantity. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a range uh, of uh, probably quantity. So I'll say is equal to indirect and I'll specify quantity. Let's see if it is able to give me, yeah, you can see the entire range has come in. Other thing that I can do along with it is I can sum this entire quantity. Yeah, I'm using indirect, which is referencing the quantity range and it is giving me the output. So you can see the output of this entire range quantity is 1880. I can sum it up for you so that you can verify your answer. So you can see here. So this is where I do not need to have a separate calculation. I can have a calculation done on a specific range based on the indirect function by giving it a named range. Yeah, this way I'm able to get the uh, value of a particular range if I have named it. Now, let's come to the second type, that is by default A1 is true. So if I use the same thing using comma true, it will still give me the same output. Yeah. But for false, yeah, in order to use the false function, you need to first specify the row number and the column. Now, what happens is, suppose I want to use indirect function. Yeah, indirect with R1 C1. So I have all this data with me. Yeah, when I'm saying R1 C1 referencing, it is an alternative way of referencing cells in a spreadsheet. So by default, you specify as A1, A2, A3. Yeah. But in R1 C1, you specifically reference A equals to 1 and column B is equals to 2, how it would be. Yeah. So instead of referencing columns by their letter, you would use a number. Okay. So in order to get the same value, which was this value that we had seen, yeah. So what I will do is I will reference it with a R1 C1. Okay. So what I have to do is I'll say is equal to indirect. Yeah. I would specify the R1 C1 here. So what I'll do is let me specify R1 C9 comma false. Let me see if it gives me the right output. No, it is not giving me the right output. We need to reference it properly. So let's understand how it is being referenced over here by getting into more details of this particular function. Yeah. So I'll say learn about indirect more so that I can see what it's a pretty quick understanding that you can get by using help. Sometimes your formulas may not work. Yeah. And you can use the help. Right now it's not working. Let me try it by myself. I have used this earlier. Okay. There is no example of R1 C1. So let me you check some of my previous experience and see if I'm able to get the right formula. So what I have to do is R1 C1, I have to reference it using some data. Just checking on how do I reference it. I need to get a good example about R1 C1 is how to specify it. I have used this in some of my earlier examples. So suppose I want to get the sales of my March figure. Yeah. of March and pull them into this particular cell that I'm using. Yeah. Now let's understand that the figures that we are trying to do is get is an addition of the entire March cells. Yeah. So what I will do is, let me go to the formula once again, that is indirect. I'll specify R1 and C and count of 15 by 15. Oh, have I missed this? 15 by 15 and I'll say false. Let me see if it's able to give the output. No. Okay, okay. I have not put it in double quotes. Okay. So you can see here, it gives me the output as 3316, which is 15 by 15. This is the output that we are able to get. But let's not confuse the output by what we want as an earlier thing. What we can do is we can have the R1C1 being mentioned as R1 and C5. Let's see if it's able to give us the output that is being required. Or no, R1. Okay, there is nothing in R1C5. So let me have R9. Yeah, which is the value as 300. I wanted to show you some complicated example, but somehow I'm not able to get it right. So I'll give you a simple example how it is calculated. So I'm specifying the row as ninth row and column as fifth. Previously, what we did is, in order to get the same value, I used E9. So if I would have used indirect E9, yeah, oh, sorry, indirect and specify the value as E9, it would have given me the same out. So this is another way of getting your data wherein I am specifying the row number and the column number. So R stands for row, C stands for column. So since it is an RC format, I specify here it to be false, which you can see here in the dropdown. How is the style supposed to be in order to get the data? This is what I wanted to show you, but with some advanced formula, but I was not able to. Now, the major thing or the advanced thing that I used and the indirect function for was for data validations. Now, suppose I have a lot of probably, I would say, I go to the grocery store, I would get vegetables, yeah, I would get fruits, yeah. So I'll say grocery. This is what I'm showing, which I specifically use in dashboards to fetch my data, which is dependent data through data validations. Yeah, so I would get vegetables, I would get fruits, I would get dairy products. Yeah. Now, in vegetables, again, I have lot of vegetables. Yeah. It could be potato, tomato, uh, green veggies. I'm just putting anything that's coming up to my mind. I can have fruits, which is apple, mango, banana, any kind of uh, pear, yeah. And in dairy, I have milk, I have curd, yeah. I have buttermilk. Okay. Now I want to create a dependent list based on the selection that I do. Yeah. I'm specifically taking this example here. I would have taken it in data validation, but I'm taking it here so that you can understand how indirect is used to get this dependent variable. So suppose I click here and I go to data tab. I say data validations. Yeah. And I select the list of countries. Yeah. So I say list and I select the groceries that I have. So here are the groceries. I say apply. Now, as soon as I apply, I get this list over here, vegetable, fruits, dairy. Now, I want the and another list, which is dependent on this particular list, this indirect list to provide only those categories which are available as per the selection that I do in grocery. Yeah. So I'll go to the cell just next to what we did right now. So in the next cell, I would say again, data validations. Yeah. I would say list again. And I will right now, I'll say indirect and I will specify the cell where I have to select the groceries. I'll say apply. So BI 11, that's okay. So before using this, I need to have this name ranges being given to this particular data. So I have to first, I'll give the name ranges. So this potato, tomato are named as vegetables. Okay. As vegetables. Okay. You have this as fruits. Yeah. You have this as dairy. Okay. So I have given all this a name range. Based on the selection that I do, it will give me the data here. So I'll say data validation, list, and I'll say is equal to indirect. This particular value that I have to choose, and I'll say okay. Entry leads when I try entering different value. That's okay with me. Vegetables. List is equal to indirect. And I have to select 11. Yes. So you can see here I have this dependent values now, potato, tomato, green vegetable. Same way, if I have to select fruits, now it has changed the value to the fruits that are there in this selection. Same way, if I select dairy, I get the dairy related. So this is how you can use indirect for creating dependent drop-down list in your data. This way you will have accuracy in your data. You do not allow the user or the data entry person to enter some other data which is irrelevant. I cannot add potato in a dairy product. That my system will not allow itself. Yeah. So this is how you create dependent drop-down list so that there is no error in your data and you have clean data to do your data errors. Hope I was able to make the concepts clear on indirect and how this could be used in various way in various forms towards your data analysis. Hope you like this video. Do like it, share it across with your colleagues who want to learn Excel. Comment if you want me to cover any topics which are which are very important to you and needs to be covered in the 365 days of Excel journey. Uh, yes, do not forget to subscribe to my channel because that's how you're going to get the notification about any future videos that I upload on YouTube. And yes, that will also keep me motivated towards creating such free content for your people. Thank you so much.